ॐ
सदाशिवसमारम्भाम्
सदाशिवसमारम्भां
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमम्
शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमम्
अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्
वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्
ॐ
ॐ
सहनाववतु
सहनाववतु
सहनौ भुनक्तु
सहनौ
सह
भुनक्तु
वीर्यं
सह
करवावहै
वीर्यं करवावहै
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा
तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु
विद्विषावहै
विद्विषावहै
ॐ शान्ति
ॐ
शान्ति
शान्ति
शान्तिः।
शान्ति शान्तिः।
Okay, so we are completed the ninth mantra, Anuvaka, and I will request Tanmay ji to chant the 10th Anuvaka. You can all chant with her.
Should I do it with the swaras?
With Swaraj is fine.
Aham vrikshasya ririva
अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिवा
irtif prishtham gireriva
कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिव
ऊर्ध्व pavitro vajiniva swamritamasmi
ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीं समृतमस्मि
द्रविणगं सवर्चसम्
द्रविणगुं सर्वचसम्
सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः
सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः
इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम्
इति श्रीशङ्को वेदानुवचनम्.
Okay, so this is a very small Anuvaka. In the previous Anuvakas, we had covered karma as well as upasana. And of course, the difference we know, karma is kaikam karma and upasana is manasakam karma. And the benefits can be different, can be in two ways depending upon the sankalpa, the motive of the person doing the karma or upasana. One is they can be sakama, practiced for prosperity in this world. Ihaloka prosperity can be there. And sakama need not be just ihaloka, it can be paraloka also. So whether you are doing it as sakama for ihaloka or paraloka, it is sakama only. And you are utilizing what we are calling material punyam, sakama punyam. And the sadhana, therefore, that I am following is as a sakama karma. And how do I make it known to the Lord that it is sakama karma? I mentioned this in the sankalpa that I take before doing the karma. Now, the same karma or upasana can be practiced in a nishkama manner. If I'm a person who is not very interested in material benefits, and for me the spiritual progress, the spiritual benefits are my priority, then I ask for spiritual punyam when I do the karma, because the karma or the upasana, what do? They generate punyam only, and that punyam is encashed for whatever benefit I am asking for. And therefore, when you do the upasana or the karma, the sankalpa is very important. The sankalpa decides whether you are asking for material punyam, sakama punyam, or spiritual punyam, nishkama punyam. And if you are doing it for nishkama purposes, then this is nishkama karma or nishkama upasana. And the spiritual punyam that you obtain out of these practices, they can be used for benefits in the form of sadhana chatushtayam, etc. You can ask for chitta shuddhi. Supposing that I already have chitta shuddhi in a large, what proportion, then I can use that same sakama punyam, the spiritual punyam, for asking for a teacher, acharya praptihi, because without the acharya, the shastra cannot communicate anything to me. Okay. Now, supposing someone is interested in this manner, is interested only in moksha and is not looking for ihaloka or paraloka phalam. For such a person, should there not be something special for him to fast track, so to call, his spiritual progress, right? He should be fast tracking the spiritual progress compared to the other person. And therefore, the Upanishad gives some special mantras for jnana prapti, for such people, for people who are having moksha only as the final goal. And therefore, the Upanishad presumes that we are all uttama adhikaris and prescribes a japa which is called Atma Jnanartham Japaha. The japa meant for Atma Jnanam. Atma Jnanartham Japaha. This japa is meant for only for getting Atma Jnanam. And this mantra has been given by a rishi called Trishanku Rishi. Now, the moment I say Trishanku Rishi, what is the vision which comes in front of your mind?
The story of somebody stuck in between, neither above or below, or
Right. So this is not
they
the
call
rishi
it
who was in between rishi.
Trishankusva.
Yeah. So this particular rishi is not that in between hanging rishi. Okay, that we should be clear about. This is a different rishi called Trishanku. So don't connect this Trishanku to that Trishanku, because that Trishanku achieved whatever he achieved only because of whom? You should know the story, right? Little bit
Rishi
story
Vishwamitra.
of Rishi Vishwamitra. Okay, that rishi had no, punyam or special powers of his own to hang in between. And that is only because of Vishwamitra. But this is a different rishi. He is also called Trishanku only, but not the in-between hanging rishi. Okay. So he says, Iti Trishankaha Veda Anuvachanam. Okay, the Anuvachanam is a very important word. Anu is a very important word. Anu means following or after, right? So Veda Anuvachanam means the words, Vachanam, uttered Anuvedaha, after the Veda. So Veda here means the Atmajnanam, and therefore the Trishanku Veda Anuvachanam means Trishanku Rishi, he uttered these words, he gave out this mantra post becoming a Jnani. After getting Atmajnanam, he gives this mantra for others. And what does he say? He declares that all the glories of Brahman or Atma belong to me only. Why? Because I have discovered that I am Brahman. Okay. So, what is to be noted is that whenever we talk about being a dasa, a lot of, in fact, most of the what they call the religious leaders, religious texts, religious darshanas are based in duality, right? And when you're rooted in duality, you can never be the same as Ishvara, because you are a dasa and Ishvara is the master. The problem with being dasa is what? See, for example, take Dvaita Darshana or take Vishishta Advaita Darshana. Dvaita says what? That you are different from Ishvara. And moksha is what? Going to Vaikuntha or Kailasha or sitting at the feet of Ishvara. Right? That is Dvaita. Vishishta is slightly better. It says you are different but not totally different. You are a part of Ishvara. And therefore moksha is what? Going and sitting in Kailasha, becoming a part of Ishvara. Now, both cases, there is a dasa bhavaha, the feeling that I am a slave, right? Now, slavery, says Vedanta, is not desirable at all. Whether you are a slave of another person or a slave of Ishvara, you are still a slave. You can be a slave of Ishvara also, but you are still a slave. What is the fun in being a slave? And therefore Vedanta says, don't be a slave, because you don't have to be one. Therefore, aham vrikshasya reriva. Okay. So vriksha here refers to chapter 15 of the Bhagavad Gita. What is that? What vriks?
The Ashwatthama Vriksha.
Ashwatthama vriksha is okay.
The tree of
Ashwatthama
samskara.
Ashwatha vriksha, not Ashwathama vriksha. Ashwathama was the elephant.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ashwatha vriksha, it is a samsara vriksha, right? So of this samsara vriksha, a samsara tree, who am I? Reriva. Reriva is the word which we normally don't come across. It means prerayita, the one which gives prerana to, the one which activates, the supporter, the life giver. So I am the life giver of the samsara tree. I support the samsara tree. How do I support the samsara tree? By lending sat to the universe. I lend existence to the universe, and to understand this, we should immediately go to the dream tiger, which you see in the dream, and the tiger is chasing you and you are sweating away. But who has lent existence to the tiger? The dream world itself depends upon you for its existence. The dream tiger also depends upon you for existence. In the same way, I, Brahman, I am the Vrikshasya Reriva. I am the activator, the supporter, the supplier of existence to this samsara tree. And when I wake up, of course, the dream world stops existing. But you must remember, in the dream example, when I wake up, the dream world stops existing. From Jagrata Avastha, when I wake up, the world still remains there. So I lend Sat, I lend existence to the universe. And not only that, I lend Chit, consciousness to the universe, because any shariram, any body can become conscious only if it borrows Chit from Atma, because the body is Anatma. Anatma is inert, Jadam. And therefore, for it to be conscious, it must have borrowed that consciousness from somewhere. In short, I am the Satta Purti Pradhata. I am the Satta Chaitanya Pradhata. I give consciousness and existence to the world. And therefore, I am Vishwa Adharam. Vishwadharam. Mithya Jagat Adhishthanam I am. I am the substratum of this Mithya Jagat. And I must remember, of course, that samsara tree can be destroyed. What is the pramanam for that? What is the pramanam for the statement that the samsara tree can be destroyed?
The same chapter of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
Where he says,
Asanga shastrena judena chitva.
"Jadena chitra."
That is the jnanam. Asanga means jnanam over there. Asanga shastrena, the detached acts of detachment, the acts of jnanam you can use to cut down that samsara tree. Okay. And he says, Kirtihi prishtham gireriva. So prishtha is the top of a giri. Giri is the mountain. Gireriva prishtha means the top of the mountain. Kirtihi. So you have to say, my kirtihi. Kirti is fame. So my fame is the greatest in the universe. And that is why Prishtham Gireriva, the top of the mountain, is seen everywhere. And my fame is therefore known everywhere. And the next one is Urdhva Pavitro Vajaniva Swamratam Asmi. Urdhva Pavitro Vajaniva Swamamritam Asmi. I am absolutely pure. because jnanam makes me absolutely pure. So urdhvam is the top, the northernmost portion. So it can be taken as absolute. Pavitra is pure. Urdhvam pavitraha. I am absolutely pure. Shankara gives another meaning also, which we should also remember. He says urdhvam can be taken as a karanam and pavitram can be taken as prakashyam, that which is revealed. So urdhvam pavitram is that karanam, that cause, which is revealed by knowledge. What is the cause revealed by knowledge? Brahman only. Either way, it is the same meaning. Therefore, the final meaning is Urdhva Pavitra Asmi. I am that Brahman who is absolutely pure and can be revealed through Atma Jnana. I am that Param Brahma, which is Jagat Karanam. So, Jagat Karanam Brahma I am. So, I'm using a fair amount of Sanskrit because I don't want to, this to deteriorate into a lower level class. Anybody who doesn't understand any particular word, please stop me and ask. The people who may not understand all the words, if they don't, please ask. Otherwise, I'm going in the presumption that you follow. Okay. Then, what is the next one? Vajaniva Samritam Asmi. So, Vaji. Vaji is another name for what? We have seen this before somewhere. No. Okay. So, Vaji is another name for Surya Deva. Right? And Surya Deva is the nourisher, the provider of annam, food. And therefore, Vajam means annam. That is why Vaji is Surya Deva, because Vaji means the one who has Vajam. So Vajam annam, Vaji is Surya Deva. Surya Deva here means the possessor of annam. Okay. Right. And the possessor of annam is who Savituhu, Surya Bhagwan. And some commentators add that this is because Surya Bhagwan is the one who enables annam to be born because of the sunlight and the rains. So you have to interpret it as what? The sunlight causes evaporation. The evaporation causes clouds. The clouds cause rain. And therefore, through that rain, annam is born. So that is the reason why Surya Bhagwan is called Vaji, the possessor of annam. Okay, there is another meaning also, another interpretation also. There is a upasana. We'll see that in a later section. There's upasana where Surya Bhagavan is visualized as having 5 portions. White light, red light, dark spots, etc. Surya Bhagavan is visualized having 5 portions. And in this particular upasana, one worships each of the portions as part of the annam for the devatas. Hence the Surya Bhagavan who has 5 portions, each portion serving as food for the devatas. Therefore, he is called possessor of annam, Vaji. So, 2 interpretations, either one is okay. And Amritam Asmi, I am immortal. Dravinam Savarchasam. Dravinam is dhanam, wealth. And that wealth is Savarchasam. Savarchasam means Diptimataha, brilliant, shining, luminous, radiant. And what is that shining wealth? The mantra doesn't say. But Shankara says 2 meanings can be given. One is that Atma Tattvam is the wealth. The Atma itself, the Atma principle is the wealth because it is shining. Swayam Prakashaha. It is self-revealing. Therefore, we can say that Atma or Brahman is the wealth. Therefore, Dravinam Savarchasam can be taken as Atma Tattvam. Alternatively, second meaning is the Vritti Jnanam, which is Atma Jnanam. So, Brahma Jnanam itself can be taken as Savarchasam because that knowledge is so brilliant It reveals whom? It reveals Brahman himself. And therefore, two meanings are there. One can be the Atma Tattvam or the Brahma Tattvam. One can be the Jnanam which reveals the Brahma Tattvam. The Shastra Jnanam which reveals the Brahma Tattvam. Both these meanings can be taken. And Shankara says both are okay because it is a wealth only, because it is a cause of moksha. Then Sumedha Amritokshitaha. Okay, Sumedha is the one who has the most auspicious Medha. Su stands for the good part, the auspicious part. Sumedha is auspicious Medha. The one who has the most auspicious Medha, that is Sumedha. Medha is what? What is Medha?
Intellect.
Medha is firm intellect, very piercing intellect. So that piercing intellect used for Brahmajnanam, therefore Sumedha. Okay. Shankara says you can take Sarvagnya Lakshana as the meaning. The special meaning of Sumedha, of Medha is Sarvagnya, omniscient. Okay. And I have that Medha, says who? Trishanku. Because Sarvagnyam Brahma Aham Asmi. I am that Brahma who knows everything. So this word Amruktokshitaha, Shankara always has to get into grammar. So I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Shankara says this Amrita Akshitaha can be split in two ways. So I'll go slow so that those who don't understand or not familiar with grammar can understand. The first meaning is Amritaha, that is Amrita with a Visarga, plus Akshitaha. That is a split of Amrutokshitaha. How is that? Because a Visarga plus a turns into a O. And therefore, Amritokshitaha, that is one way of splitting. And the other one is not to take the Visarga and simply say Amrita Uksitaha. Again, the A, which is the ending of Amrita, and the U, which is the beginning of Ukshitaha, that also turns into O. So, Amritokshitaha, two ways of splitting. One is Amritaha Akshitaha, one is Amrita Uksitaha. The split is clear? Anybody has doubts about the way of Sandhi breakup? It's not very difficult. Just, we think it is difficult because in Hindi we don't see all this.
Acharya, there's just one thing.
Yeah.
If it is, Shankaracharya explains it as both.
He says both meanings are possible.
Oh, okay. Because if it was actually, if it is taken as Amritaha Akshitaha, which becomes Amrit, it becomes Amrito Akshitaha, not Amrit. And then therefore, if it is spelled like this, it actually needs to have an avagra.
There is avagra over there.
Oh, okay. It's not
avagraha kshataha.
Oh, it's not here. Okay.
In the book, it's
yes,
not
then
there.
it makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, but avagraha is there. Okay.
Then it
So, Amritaha Akshitaha is what? Amritaha means the one who has the nature of immortality. Amritaha means the one who is immortal, who has no death. And Akshitaha is Akshinaha. Shinam is what? Shinam is a word you must know. We will keep on coming. Shine Punye Martya Lokam Vishanti. Shinam is what?
Completed or finished, or is it that?
Shine is exhausted.
Right.
In fact, those who are in South Indians will know what the word Shinam means. Exhaustion, right? So here that exhaustion is equivalent to decay, right? So Akshita means Akshinaha, that which does not decay. It's from the dhatu, the root kshi, which means decay. So the meaning is that I have the nature of immortality and I have no decay. Why does he give both? Why does he give immortality and decay? Which is more troublesome, death or decay?
Decay,
Why? What is the proof?
because it's a slow process moving from
The
one stage to
proof is
the
very
other,
simple.
like Arshad Vikaras.
No, the proof is very simple. The dead people don't complain. The decaying people, they complain. Okay. So those whose organs are decaying, you find them
Yes,
complaining all the time. Dead people have no
yes,
complaints.
yes.
And therefore decay is more troublesome. That is why he gives the meaning here that I have no decay also. I have no death, but I have no decay also. Okay, the second meaning is amritaha ukshitaha. Uksha means to soak. You know, you put lime in the juice, and ukshaha, it soaks in the juice. So amritaha ukshitaha means I am soaked in immortality, like the rasagulla is soaked in the sugar syrup, and therefore I am soaked in immortality. Two names are there, two meanings are there. Either one is okay. And iti trishanku vedanu vachanam. So whenever we use a mantra for japa, you should remember that the rishi, the chandaha, and the devata are always mentioned. It is not there in the mantra, but those who have been doing Vishnu Sahasranamam will know that when mantra is chanted, you mention rishi, you mention the meter chandaha, and you mention devata also. So in this mantra, the rishi of course is Trishanku. The chanda is called a Pangtim chanda. Devata is of course Hiranyagarbha or Ishvara or Paramatma. So that is the 10th Anuvaka. Any questions? It's a very nice mantra. And very often I have heard people using it as a Shanti mantra also. Some books, when they talk about Shanti mantras, you will hear this. Aham Rikshasya Reva. So in case you're wondering where it came from, here it is. Taittiriya Upanishad, first chapter, 10th Anuvaka. Any questions?
Acharya, I have a small little question.
Yeah.
Just in general about this chapter, these anuvakas that are kind of following one another. The previous one that we had done was in praise of, Swadhyaya and Pravachana, basically learning and teaching.
Yeah.
And now we've come to this, which is
The
is
prayer.
it
It's coming
yes.
from Sakama to Nishkama.
So is there any particular, is there a flow, is there an order, or is it just kind of
The order is Sakama, Nishkama, Jnanam, and so on. That's
so
the order.
know this, and now know this. Is it like that? You should know this.
You should know this and you should know this. So you choose. You can do Sakama Bhakti mantras, you can do Nishkama Bhakti mantras. Veda will not prescribe what. Veda will tell you this is the general flow that you should have during your life. And you evaluate yourself, you evaluate your desires, and you ask yourself, where am I situated? And if you don't know, you ask your husband or wife, they'll tell you immediately where you are situated. Okay, that is the best way. And then you choose.
So it has been, because it started with Karmakana and suddenly it's come to Aham Dikshasya Reriva. So which is why I was asking.
Which is for Chitta Shuddhi. Still a prayer, but it is for Chitta Shuddhi.
Right.
So prayer meant for Jnana Prapti.
All right. Thank you.
Acharya ji,
Yes, Kush.
if I may request you to just say this whole prayer in one sar once again, if that's possible.
Yeah. Tanmay ji, just repeat the prayer once. No,
Sure.
people are not going to follow. Just repeat it quickly.
Aham Vrikshasya Reriva Kirtif Prishtangireriva Urdhva Pavitro Vajiniva Swamritamasmi Dravinagam Savarchasam Sumedha Amritokshitaha Iti Trishankur Vedanuvachanam.
Okay. Now, anything else? Anybody else? All right. Then, Tanmayji, could you please go on and go to the first paragraph of the next Anuvaka. Anuvaka number 11. The first paragraph ends at Pramaditavyam.
Swadhyaya pravachanabhyam na pramaditavyam. There, right?
Yeah, correct.
Vedamanuchyacharyontivasina manushasti. Oh, am I just chanting the whole thing?
Yeah, please chant the whole thing.
Okay,
That's all.
sorry. All right, I'll just do that. Vedamanuchyacharyontivasina manushasti. Satyam vada dharman chara swadhyaya anma pramadah acharyaya priyan dhanamahritya prajatantum ma vyavachetsi satyanna pramaditavyam dharmanna pramaditavyam kushalanna pramaditavyam bhutyaina pramaditavyam swadhyaya pravachanabhyanna pramaditavyam.
Okay. So now the Upanishad is this actually is the condensation, the summary of the entire Dharma Shastram, which is available in the Karma Kanda, in the Veda Purva Bhaga. So the Veda Purva Bhaga, we must remember, is called Dharma Shastram. Sannyasa represents transcending that Dharma Shastra centric life, transcending religious life. So a sannyasi is basically stepping into Jnana Kanda. He has stepped out of Veda Purva and Dharma Shastra. And that is why he is supposed to remove the sacred thread. He cuts the tuft. He is supposed to give up the family because the sacred thread, the tuft, etc., all this represent family, grahastha, which represents religious life, right? So religious life is being transcended. Now, a little bit tidbits about the Veda Purva. Just like the analysis of the Jnana Kanda is done by Shankaracharya, or rather by Vyasacharya in the Brahma Sutras, the analysis of the Veda Purva has been done by a rishi called Jaimini. So Jaimini Maharishi has done an analysis of the Veda Purva, and there are some 12 chapters with little over 2000 sutras, and this is called as Purva Mimamsa Sutrani. Like Brahma Sutrani is for Jnana Kanda, Purva Mimamsa Sutrani is for Karma Kanda. It's also called Dharma Jignyasa Sutrani. As against those 12 chapters and 2000 sutras of Jnana Kanda analysis, Brahma Sutra has only 4 chapters and some 555 sutras. The Purvamamsa analysis also begins with Athato, but it doesn't say Athato Jnana, it says Athato Dharma Jignya. So without, first you have to work on Dharma. Without Dharma Shastram, Brahma Shastram is impossible. And therefore this 11th Anuvaka is a summary of the entire Dharma Shastra. So when should we study Dharma Shastra? It's a preparatory ground for Vedanta. And therefore, ideally, before the study of Vedanta, you should have studied Dharma Shastra. In an ideal situation, our schools and colleges should be teaching Dharma Shastra also. But wherever it is taught today, even not in the traditional schools, of course, but wherever even religious schools teach, you will find that they teach only Vedanta. Dharma Shastram has been given a total bypass. This Dharma Shastram is supposed to be studied in the Gurukula, in the Brahmacharya ashram as a student. And the ashram study of Dharma Shastram has 2 stages. One is called the Veda Adhyayanam stage, which means learning to chant without the meaning. So there is a Adhyayanam, which is learning to chant without the meaning, which we call Artharahita Shabdagrahanam. Shabdagrahanam is grasping the words Artharahita without the meaning. So there is no Arthagrahanam at all. And that is why you find that in Gurukuls, the chanting begins by rote very, very early. When you are young, anything can be memorized. Both Vedapurva and Vedanta can be memorized easily when you are very young. That is the first stage. And the second stage is after you are memorized and understood and are able to chant properly, then there is Veda Mimamsa. The first stage is Veda Adhyayanam. Second stage is Veda Mimamsa, the meaning and analysis. The Shabda Grahanam has taken place. Now Artha Grahanam is taking place. Here again, remember when you are saying Veda, we are talking about Karma Kanda only, Purva Mimamsa. The concentration is on theory only. The rituals, how they are to be done, the mantras, all the rituals, the meaning of the mantras, all that is taught to you. But again, it's all theory. When will this theory be put into practice?
When he becomes a grihastha.
When he becomes a grihastha. So the brahmacharya ashram is theory centric. The practice of whatever he has studied, that will come when he is in grihastha ashram, which is anusthana pradhanam, practice pradhanam. So here you will find that there are many repetitions of the karmas mentioned in earlier Anuvaka. 9th Anuvaka, some karmas were mentioned. You will find that repeated over here. Your Nitya Naimittika karmas are being repeated here. Okay. As I said earlier, karmas are capable of sakama benefits, but the Vedantic student like us, we are not interested in karma. So should a sadhaka do all this karma is a question which you often ask. In fact, many of us, even if they are not asked in class, I'm sure some of you will have this question. I am a Vedantic student. Why is this Raviji going on and on about karma? I don't want to do any karma. First of all, it's painful. Do all those karmas, put tikas, let's not do it. So Sankara says that the same karmas which are prescribed for the person who is an adhikari for karma kanda should be done by the Vedantic student also, because he uses the word Purusha Samskaraha. The benefit is Purusha Samskaraha. The literal meaning of the word Samskara, I don't know if you've seen all these pujas. In the pujas, before they start the puja, the pujari will get some water in his hand and he will sprinkle it on the area, the Homakund area. Then he will sprinkle it on all those instruments which he's going to use. All that is called samskara. That is purification. The purificatory rituals in any karma kanda, puja or yajna, sprinkling of water. This is called a samskara, a purificatory ritual. And Shankara says these karma kanda rituals for the Vedantic student, it's a Purusha Samskara. It cleans the Purusha. Purusha here, of course, is the student and not Bhagwan. Okay, Purusha can mean Bhagwan, but here it is student, so it cleans the student. And therefore, he says, Shruti instructs that you do this for the purification of the mind. Now, once you have got a refined mind, a purified mind, a sattvika mind, Shankara adds over here that Atmajnanam Anjasa eva utpadyate. This Atmajnanam will arise without any obstruction when? At the time of Shravanam itself. And therefore, both Shruti and Smriti say that without Chitta Shuddhi, you can do all the Shravanam and Mananam you want. But Jnanam will not arise in you. And Shankara quotes from Manusmriti. Right? So those who are interested, it is the 12.104. That is the reference. He says, tapasa kalmasham hanti vidyaya amritam ashnute iti. So tapas here is not austerities. Tapas is the nitya naimitika karma is tapas. So he says, tapasa kalmasham hanti. It's very clear. Karma, naimitika karma, nitya naimitika karma, they destroy kalmasham. Kalmasham is impurities. And what do? Vidyaya amritam ashnute. Because of the destruction of those impurities, so that's chitta shuddhi. Tapasa kalmasham hanti is chitta shuddhi. And that chitta shuddhi, vidyaya amritam ashnute, gives rise to knowledge. That knowledge will bring in immortality. It will make you understand that you are Brahman. Then there is a quote in this Upanishad itself, in Taittiriya itself, so the later chapter, the third chapter, so 3.2.1. Tapasa Brahma Vijignyasasva iti. One has to understand that tapas, nitya, naimitika karma, it gives you chitta shuddhi, and then only jnanam will work. And therefore Shankara says it is for this purpose that even a person working for Atma Jnanam should ensure that he does karma, all the karmas prescribed in the Karma Kanda. And therefore, karmani anushtheyani, the Veda commands you to do all this karma. And if you don't obey that commandment, he says, pratyavaya papam will be produced. So we have had a big discussion on pratyavaya papam earlier also. You should remember that pratyavaya papam creates two problems. For ajnani, it will create problems by way of, do you remember the discussion? How does pratyavaya papam create problems? In Bhagavad Gita, we had a discussion on pratyavaya papam. Also, I think in earlier part of Upanishad, I'm not very sure if we have done that. But what is the way that pratyavaya papam creates problems?
It's the revealer, not the producer.
Yeah. So remember that pratyavaya papam means the result of not performing a karma. And the discussion was that when you do not perform something, that cannot create papam. Therefore, it is like sweeping your room. If you don't sweep your room, dust is not created, but the accumulated dust is not cleaned. And therefore, pratyavaya papam is the revelation of karma which has not been nullified because of not doing the nitya naimitika karma. Therefore, for a ajnani, it will give, the problems will be in the nature of giving him obstructions in his work, papam and all that. For a sadhaka, the obstruction will be the obstruction to the rise of jnanam. Right. So here, if you remember the 9th Anuvaka, remember that the discussion there was in the context of Swarga Praptihi, Brahmaloka Praptihi. So basically, phalam of karma was discussed. Right. So 9th Anuvaka, discussion on karma was in the connection of the fruit of that action, in the phalam only, whether it be Swarga Praptihi or Brahmaloka Praptihi, etc. But in the 11th Anuvaka, this discussion is meant for Chitta Shuddhi only. So this is a little introduction to this Anuvaka. And therefore he says, Vedam Anuchya. Look at the first word. Vedam Anuchya Acharya Antevasinam Anushasti. The breakup. Vedam Anuchya Acharya Antevasinam Anushasti. Anuchya means Adhyaya. Anuvachanam. Anuvachanam is learning to do Parayanam. Learning to chant. What we talked about. Shabda Grahanam only without meaning. Vedam Anuchya. Learn to chant is the first commandment. And this chanting can take several years to perfect. Because there are so many ways of chanting. And therefore, in every Gurukulam, at least the traditional Gurukulams, there was a rule. There was I won't call it rule. There's a method methodology of teaching. For 6 months, there would be learning the chanting. For the next six months, it would be repeating the chanting. So first, you learn how to chant, and repeating the chanting doesn't mean repeating from the book like we do. So you learn to chant, memorize the whole thing in 6 months. The next 6 months in the Gurukulam is spent in reproducing from memory whatever you have studied. Okay. And the 6 months of chanting that is why people who came out of Gurukulams, for them, every mantra was entrenched in memory. That is the reason. And during the 6 months where you were only repeating the chanting, doing only the Parayanam, these 6 months he studies ancillary things like Sanskrit language, grammar, etc. All this was also done. So this was the basic style. 6 months of studying and memorizing, 6 months of reproducing, plus during those 6 months, you studied grammar, you studied language, etc. And this took quite some time, right? 8 to 9 years. After having done that, he says, Anucha Vedam, having taught the Vedas in the prescribed manner, what does he do? Acharya Antevasinam Anushasti. Antevasina is one who stays inside the Gurukulam. So a Shishya basically. Acharya Antevasinam Anushasti. Again, the word Anu is different, is important because the Acharya Shasti, he teaches the student. Paschat, after what? After learning to chant. And when you read this, therefore, you have to take it as the first one is Vedam Anuchya. Having learned to chant, then after that, post having learned to chant, the teacher, Anushasti, he teaches the student what? The meanings he teaches. So Shankara says Anu should be taken as Paschat, afterwards. The meaning extremely clear. First learn to chant, and then only can you learn the meanings. So Anushasti here is teaching the meanings of the mantras. And that Anu represents the fact that the teaching is taught, the meanings are taught only when the student is proficient in chanting. Okay, so that's why I said 6 months and 6 months. First 6 months is Vedam Anuchya, learning to chant. Next 6 months, Anushasti. The meanings are also taught. This is all Karma Kanda only, I'm reminding you. Okay, we are not come to Jnana Kanda at all. From this, one learns that in the Gurukul, you should not stop the chanting. You have to learn the meanings also. And that is the problem with a lot of Gurukulas today. Only the chanting is taught. The meanings are not taught at all. And that is simply because many of the teachers have only learned to chant. So how can they teach you the meanings? So they stop with the chanting itself. Chanting itself is very difficult. If you have traditional chanting, extremely difficult with the swaras, with the various types of chanting. But the meanings are not taught. So students who come out from those schools, they know which mantra is to be used on which occasion. For a marriage, which is the mantra. For a death ceremony, which is the mantra. But if you ask them the meaning, they don't know. So only the mantra is known, meaning is not known. And how this teaching is to be done is now being mentioned here. Satyam Vada. Okay, so this is carefully the meaning. Satyam Vada, not Satyam Vada. Okay, there's a big difference between Vada and Vada. What is the difference?
Kill the truth and speak the truth.
Yeah, speak the truth and
Satyam
kill the
Vada
truth.
is speak the truth. Satyam Vada is kill the truth. Totally opposite meaning. So we are talking about Satyam Vada. So values of life are being taught. So common values are there. Samanya Dharma we call it for everybody. And there is a value specific to a particular varna or a particular ashrama. Those are all Vishesha Dharma. So both Samanya Dharma and Vishesha Dharma will be taught. And Satyam Vada, he says the Karma Kanda Jnanam that has been taught. by the Guru using the scripture. And Shankara very carefully adds over here, that is not enough. Vaktavyam tadvada. He said, as you have been taught, you should teach to others. So Shankara says that it is not enough to come out of a Gurukul having learned. Your duty doesn't end there. You have to teach others. As Rishiranam, you have to teach others. Vaktavyam tadvada. Okay, so Satyam Vada, the Jnana Kanda, that is been the Jnana Kanda knowledge, Dharma Shastra knowledge that has been received from the Guru in the ashram should be shared with others. That is the Samanya Dharma, the general duty that everybody has. And thereafter that, what should you do? Dharmam Chara. So Satyam Vada and Dharmam Chara are two important things. First, learn what you should do. What is the religious life you learn? And Dharmam Chara, may you follow that religious life. All the instructions, the Vidhi, that is the instructions what to do, the Nisheda, instructions what you should not do. So all these Vidhi, Nisheda Vakyams, they are generally called Dharma Shastra. So in general, all instructions about karma, whether it be Kayika karma, Vachika karma, Manasika karma, they are all Samanya Vidhi Nisheda, general injunctions and general prohibitions, whereas Satyadi Vishesha is also there. Satyam Vada is a very specific Vidhi, very specific instruction. Okay. So Dharmam Chara, general instructions, Satyam Vada is very specific. This is the interpretation given by Shankara. Specific means what? Specific to a particular ashram, to a particular varna. Okay. This is Shankara's interpretations, but there are other commentators. So the problem with Sanskrit is that every commentator has his own ideas, and if you go to the Sringeri website, you will find all these commentators for Sanskrit, but for those who know Hindi, it shouldn't be difficult. There is a commentator called Amaradasa. Okay, he's a sub-commentator. Sub-commentator means what? Sub-commentator on a commentary. Okay. If he's a direct commentator on the Upanishad, we won't call him sub-commentator. We'll call him commentator. But if it's a person who has commented upon Shankaracharya's commentary, then we call him a sub-commentator. So this Amaradasa is a sub-commentator. Similarly, there's another sub-commentator called Sayana Acharya. Both are Acharyas. Amaradasa Acharya and Sayana Acharya, both are sub-commentators. They give a different meaning to these two words, Satya and Dharma. They say Satyam is Smartha Vidhi Nisheda, Dharmam is Shrauta Vidhi Nisheda. Do I need to explain what is Smartha and what is Shrauta? We are all in advanced students of Veda, so I was wondering if I need to explain. What is Smartha?
The karma, the Puranic, the karma kanda, the Puranic smriti based.
Yeah. So Vidhi Nisheda, prohibitions, injunctions based on smriti, they are called Smartha. And Vidhi Nisheda based on Shruti, they are called Shrauta. So Shankara gave a different meaning. Here, these people say that you can take Satyam and Dharmam as the instructions found in Smriti and in Shruti also. That is one part of it. Then we look at the next part of the mantra, Swadhyayanma Pramadaha. Swadhyayanma Pramadaha. So you break it up into Swadhyayat Ma Pramadaha. Okay. Swadhyayat, that na turns into a ma, half na turns into a half ta. So Swadhyayat Ma Pramadaha. Ma is Sanskrit, ma means no or don't. Okay. So Sanskrit na also means don't. Ma also means don't. Don't get confused. Ma doesn't mean me or mother or anything. So Swadhyayat Ma Pramadaha. Ma Pramadaha means may you not neglect. Pramadam Ma Karsihi. May you not neglect. What? Swadhyayat. Swadhyaya you should not neglect. Swadhyaya here is Parayanam of the scriptures. And you should remember now again what I said, that in Brahmacharya ashram, Parayanam is for learning and memorizing. In Grihastha ashram, there is Parayanam also. In Grihastha ashram, Parayanam is the implementation of what you have studied, and the idea is not to forget. So both these are Brahma Yajna. Learning to memorize is Brahma Yajna. Chanting so as not to forget is also Brahma Yajna. And then Acharyaya Priyam Dhanam Ahritya Prajatantu Mam Vivacheti. Acharyaya. Acharyaya means for the Acharya. Priyam Dhanam Dhanam Ahritya. Priyam Dhanam. Priyam means Ishtam, what is liked. Dhanam is Guru Dakshina. So Priyam Dhanam Aharatya to the Acharya. Give Guru Dakshina to the Acharya. And Aharatya means you should go and bring. Okay. It is important here because the Gurukula Shishya, he is broke. Where does he get the money from? He doesn't have any money. And Shastra knows. So he says Aharatya. You should go and bring. Where will he go and bring? Because you don't have opportunity for earning. So you should, having learned all this, what should you do? You should go to some charitable person and you should show him that you are a learned person. You should chant and all that. And there you should get some money. And having got the money, you should go and give it to your Acharya. Why should he give this to the Acharya? Because Shankara says that Vidya Nishkriyartham. You should never keep something with you which has not been paid for. Right? So remember that in the Gurukula is funded, those days was funded by the kings, by the state. And the students did not pay. So the teaching they received was free. And here the idea is that you should never keep a rinam, a debt, right? Because there is a saying that if you die having any debts, you will need to be reborn to pay those debts. Okay. These kind of debts, you will need to be reborn. And therefore, you should not be having any debt at all. Therefore, when you leave the Gurukula, you should ensure that you pay the Acharya. Whatever is fit, whatever you have, whatever you can get, you pay. There is no, there is no schedule of fees or anything. But you just pay whatever you have been able to get. Never own anything which you have not paid for. That is the principle. And that is why in Niyama list, you get what? Astheyam. Not having unnecessary things with you. Now, Shastram says that everyone comes into this life. When you are born itself, you have 3 rinams. Rinam is what? A debt. When you are born itself, you have 3 rinams. So, Rishi Rinam, Deva Rinam, and Pitra Rinam. So, Rishi Rinam you discharge when you study the Shastra. In Brahmacharya ashram, you discharge the Rishi Rinam by studying the Shastra. The Deva Rinam, your debt towards the gods, you discharge in Grihastha ashram because of all the rituals which you do. Agnihotra, Upasana, all this you do. And Pitrinam, the debt towards your forefathers, you discharge through having children. So that children will take care of the Kula Dharma, they call it, all the rituals for the ancestors. So that is how the ancestral, the debt to the ancestors, the rinam to the ancestors is discharged by having children. The idea is that without discharging these 3 debts, one should never enter the sannyasa ashram, because after entering sannyasa ashram, you are in no position to discharge any debt at all. Why? Because you yourself are dependent upon the world for your very food itself. How do I know that I have discharged the 3 debts? It's very simple, The sadhana chatushtaya sampatti is the indication of being debt free. If your chitta shuddhi is there, then you are debt free. So in financial terms, back in a banker, we used to call this a non-leveraged position. You have not leveraged yourself at all. You are free of all leverages. That is the debt-free position. After giving the Guru Dakshina only should you leave the Gurukulam. And after that, there is one more very important rule. He is supposed to enter the Grahastha Ashrama. Therefore, the mantra says, what? Prajatantu mam vyachyatesi. Prajatantu mam vyavachyetasi. He should ask the Guru whether you are fit to become a responsible Grahastha. Right? Getting married before you are ready is a very big problem because it affects not just you, it affects your wife or husband also. And not only that, in the Indian context, it affects their families also. Therefore, Acharyena, this is what Shankara adds, Acharyena anugyataha, after having received the approval of the Guru, then Prajatantu, may you have children. And that children should be an uninterrupted flow. And uninterrupted flow doesn't mean lots of children. It means the children should have more children. Therefore, the lineage is maintained. It doesn't mean you have 200 children. Okay, so it just means that maintain the lineage. You should not, so that ma vyavachetasihi should be taken as do not break the family lineage. Why should you not break the family lineage? Because the rituals need to be continued for ancestors, for your ancestors, and for you also, the rituals need to be continued, and therefore you should not break the family lineage. So with this, we'll stop for today. Remember that in the next class, we'll start with Satyanna Pramaditavyam. So that we'll start with, but here we'll stop. Any questions? So simply outline of the basic ideas of Dharma Shastra. This is very useful to us because we don't know otherwise what Dharma Shastra says. No? No questions? Okay, great. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you, Acharya. Thank you.